Liam stared at his terminal screen with a mix of annoyance and mild panic. He had done this a dozen times before logged in, accessed the lab systems, and checked the latest updates from the research team. But today, of all days, he had forgotten his password. And not just forgotten it, he had forgotten it in a spectacularly bad way. He rubbed his temples and muttered, "Why do I always do this to myself?" The password prompt blinked at him, cold and unyielding. It was a high-security system, designed to keep out hackers and rogue AI. Forgetting the password wasn't a crime, but the system didn't care. It was perfectly happy to deny him access, as if mocking his absent dash-mindedness. Liam tapped his fingers on the desk. His mind raced through all the possible combinations. His usual go-to password, CoffeeLover42, didn't work. Neither did Starlight99, not even Quantum Penguin 88, a joke he had made years ago and thought he would never use again. After the 10th failed attempt, the terminal began to hum. A low vibration ran through the desk, faint at first, then stronger. Liam froze. The hum grew into a buzz, and the lights above the lab flickered. His pulse quickened. Something wasn't right. Okay, Liam said slowly. That's new. He leaned closer to the screen. The login prompt had disappeared. In its place was a swirling symbol he had never seen before, an intricate circle, filled with strange runes that seemed to shimmer and move on their own. The screen pulsed, almost like it was alive. Liam's first thought was that it was a virus. His second thought was that it was probably something way beyond a virus. He had read about alien artifacts before, long before the lab had built its AI systems, but he had always thought they were myths. Now, staring at the glowing circle, he realized myths could sometimes be very real. Then came the warning. Words appeared across the screen in letters that seemed carved from light itself. Seal of the First Era Unbound. Liam blinked. Seal of the First Era? He whispered. He had no idea what it meant, but the words made his stomach twist. He leaned back in his chair, heart pounding. His lab, normally a place of neat rows of machines and humming computers, now felt alien. Before he could react further, the terminal emitted a sudden pulse of energy. It shot out in all directions, making papers flutter, glasses rattle, and holographic screens wobble like jelly. Liam raised his hands, shielding his face, but the energy passed over him without harm. It was as if the room itself had been touched by some invisible force. He blinked, and the pulse was gone. The lab was silent again, except for the soft hum of the computers. The symbol remained on the screen, glowing faintly. Liam leaned in closer, studying it. Okay, he muttered. Think, Liam, think. He had learned long ago that when technology started doing weird things, panicking usually made it worse. He took a deep breath and examined the symbol carefully. It was symmetrical, almost perfectly circular, with lines and shapes that seemed to shift if you looked at them from a different angle. He had studied alien languages for fun in his youth, but this didn't match any of the patterns he knew. Still, he felt something strange a pull, like the symbol was calling to him. Against his better judgment, he reached out and touched the screen. The moment his fingers brushed the surface, a warm pulse ran up his arm, and the screen flared brightly. He yelped and jerked back, knocking over his coffee cup. It spilled across the desk, narrowly missing a delicate set of holographic projectors. The cup shattered, but Liam barely noticed. His eyes were fixed on the terminal. A voice soft, calm, and impossibly clear spoke in his mind. You have awakened me, human. Are you prepared? Liam's jaw dropped. He stumbled backward, tripping over a chair. What? He said aloud, though he knew no one could hear him. His rational brain screamed that this was impossible, but his senses told him otherwise. The voice continued, patient and slightly amused. Do not be afraid. Only those worthy may proceed. But the path is difficult. You may not understand, yet your choice has consequences. Liam swallowed hard. His first instinct was to run, but curiosity rooted him to the spot. He had faced difficult experiments, rogue AIs, and unstable energy cores before. He had never faced something like this. He remembered an old saying from his grandfather. Sometimes, mistakes lead to discoveries. And maybe, he thought with a nervous laugh. Forgetting his password today was exactly that, a mistake that had led to something. Extraordinary. After a moment of hesitation, he reached for the keyboard. Tentatively, he typed, I guess I'm ready? The screen shimmered, then dissolved into thousands of tiny lights. The lights swirled around the lab, wrapping Liam in a cocoon of soft, warm energy. He felt weightless, as if the air itself had become a liquid that supported him. Around him, the machines seemed to breathe, their panels flickering in rhythm with the pulsing lights. The terminal projected an image ancient, alien architecture stretching endlessly, towers of unknown metal, and streets paved with a glowing material that seemed alive. Strange creatures moved through the streets, humanoid but with features Liam couldn't describe. They didn't look threatening, but they radiated intelligence far beyond human comprehension. A part of Liam's mind screamed that he should run, that he should disconnect, call the authorities, anything. But another part, the part that loved discovery, that thrived on challenge, pushed him forward. He had always wanted to see something no one else had seen. Now, it was happening. What is this? He whispered to himself. This is the first era, the voice replied in his mind. Long before your species walked the stars, we forged the seal to test those who might inherit its power. Many have failed. Few have awakened it. Liam's pulse quickened. The first era. Could it really be possible that humans were touching something older than any civilization in recorded history? His mind raced. If this was true, the implications for humanity were staggering. Then the cocoon of lights began to pulse faster. The room seemed to shrink and expand at the same time. Liam felt a surge of energy inside him, like he could suddenly understand patterns, see the flow of machines, and anticipate the movements of even the smallest robots around him. His mind was clearer, faster, sharper, but alongside that clarity came a warning. The seal was not a toy. It had tests, dangers, and he realized responsibilities. He could feel the weight of it pressing on him, not physically, but in a way that demanded respect. He took a deep breath and focused. If he was going to survive this, and if he was going to learn from it, he would have to trust his instincts, his intelligence, and his humanity. Machines and codes were useful, but here, in this ancient power, only a human mind could navigate the unknown. The lights dimmed, the humming faded, and the lab returned to normal, or as normal as it could be after something like this. Liam sat at his desk, heart racing, staring at the terminal. The screen now displayed a single line of text. Step 1. Understand yourself. He exhaled slowly. His coffee was gone. The room was a mess, and his hands were shaking. But a smile tugged at his lips. He had no idea what the first era had in store for him, but for the first time in his life, forgetting a password had led to something incredible. For once, being human flawed, curious, and both felt like the greatest advantage in the universe. And with that thought, Liam began to plan. Liam sat at his desk for what felt like hours, staring at the terminal. The words, Step 1, Understand yourself, glowed faintly on the screen. He rubbed his eyes and tried to make sense of everything that had happened. He had touched the first era seal, experienced its energy, and now he could feel it like a faint hum inside his mind. The hum wasn't painful, but it demanded attention. It was subtle at first, almost like a heartbeat, and then stronger, like a rhythm guiding him. Liam realized it was urging him to do something. He leaned closer to the screen. "What do you want me to do?" he asked aloud, though he knew the voice had already heard him. The terminal pulsed, and a new message appeared. "To understand, you must see. To see, you must step beyond your world." Before he could react, the lab around him shimmered. The walls seemed to dissolve into patterns of light and shadow. Machines floated slightly above their surfaces, suspended by an unseen force. Liam's pulse quickened as a strange sensation washed over him. He felt weightless, like he was neither sitting nor standing. Then the image came. The room transformed into a vast alien city, the same one he had glimpsed during the first pulse of energy. Towering spires of shimmering metal rose into a sky streaked with colors he couldn't name. Streets twisted like ribbons, alive with movement. Liam could see beings walking through the streets, humanoid in shape but clearly not human. Their skin glowed faintly, their eyes shimmered with intelligence, and their gestures were elegant, precise, and deliberate. He took a cautious step forward, or at least thought he did. The floor beneath him was smooth and slightly warm, almost welcoming. Every instinct screamed that this was dangerous, but curiosity held him fast. Are you testing me?" Liam whispered. "Yes," the voice replied. "To wield power, you must first understand the limits of your mind and spirit. Many have failed before you. Some were erased. Some were lost to themselves. You are different." Liam swallowed hard. The implication was clear. The seal wasn't a tool to be used casually. It was alive in some sense, capable of judging him and possibly punishing failure. Yet, strangely, he didn't feel fear as much as determination. He had always thrived on challenges, and this was the ultimate challenge. A floating orb appeared before him, radiating soft light. It hovered at eye level, spinning slowly. As he watched, it began to shift, changing shape and color. Liam instinctively reached out, and the orb reacted to his presence, flowing through his hands like liquid light. He gasped. "Focus," the voice said. "The seal grants insight, not brute force. Look beyond the surface." Liam closed his eyes and concentrated. Slowly, images and patterns formed in his mind. He saw streams of data flowing through the alien city, the movements of the beings, the rhythm of the machines, and even the energy that powered the glowing streets. It was as if he could understand the world around him on a level no human had before. But alongside the insight came a warning. The seal did not simply grant knowledge. It demanded balance. For every discovery, there was a responsibility. For every gain, a consequence. Liam could feel it pressing gently, reminding him that power without wisdom was dangerous. He opened his eyes and studied the orb. It shimmered, as if acknowledging his understanding. Then it expanded, filling the space around him with soft light. The voice spoke again. "To proceed, you must navigate the trial of choices. Each choice will define your path. Choose wisely, human." The city around him shifted, forming a series of pathways. Each path was lined with symbols, some familiar, some alien. Liam could see glimpses of possible outcomes if he chose one path over another. Visions of success, failure, and unexpected consequences. He hesitated. The pressure was immense. A wrong step could mean failure, but the seal had already shown him that hesitation could be deadly too. Liam took a deep breath and reminded himself of who he was, a human, curious and clever, capable of problem-solving beyond the abilities of any machine. He stepped onto the first path. The world seemed to respond to his choice. Symbols glowed brighter, patterns shifted, and the beings in the distance paused to watch. Liam realized that the seal wasn't just testing him. It was observing humanity itself through him. Each step presented a challenge. In one corridor, he encountered a puzzle, floating geometric shapes that needed to be aligned perfectly to open a gate. Liam studied the shapes, noticing subtle patterns that suggested a solution. He manipulated the shapes with precision, relying on intuition rather than brute force. The gate opened in another corridor. A test of perception awaited. Shadows moved along the walls, forming illusions of creatures with threatening forms. Liam felt a surge of fear, but reminded himself to stay calm. He focused on the details, distinguishing reality from illusion. The shadows faded, and the path forward became clear. Hours or maybe minutes. Time felt strange past as Liam moved through the trials. He faced moral tests as well. One vision showed a group of beings trapped in danger. Saving them would mean delaying his progress. Ignoring them would allow him to continue without interruption. Liam hesitated, then chose to help. The beings were freed, and the seal acknowledged his choice with a warm pulse of energy. By the time he reached the final trial, Liam's mind was sharp, and his confidence had grown. He understood something vital. The seal wasn't a weapon to dominate, nor a simple puzzle to solve. It was a measure of character, intelligence, and human ingenuity. The last trial was the most intense. A massive wall of light appeared, covered in alien writing and symbols. The voice spoke in his mind. Translate the essence of life, human. Only then may you proceed. Liam's heart raced. He studied the symbols carefully. At first, they seemed incomprehensible, but he noticed patterns, echoes of logic, rhythm, and energy. Slowly, he began to understand. Life, in all its forms, was connected by curiosity, resilience, and the desire to survive and thrive. He imagined humanity, fragile yet determined, exploring the stars, learning, creating, and facing challenges with courage. He traced the patterns with his fingers in the air, mapping the connections. The wall pulsed, then shimmered and opened. Beyond it, the alien city faded, replaced by a glowing chamber filled with soft golden light. In the center, a pedestal rose, and on it rested a small, glowing object. The seal itself. Liam approached cautiously. As he reached out, the seal pulsed warmly, almost like it recognized him. The voice spoke one final time. You have succeeded in the first trial, human. Few have come this far. Remember, the seal is not yours to command, it is yours to understand. Use it wisely, for its power is great, and its tests are endless. Liam held the seal in his hands. It was heavier than it looked, not in weight, but in presence. He could feel its energy coursing through him, a mixture of warmth, knowledge, and a subtle warning. He realized that he had unlocked something far beyond human invention. It was ancient, alien, and powerful, but now it was connected to him. As the visions faded, Liam found himself back in his lab. The coffee cup was still shattered, papers scattered, and machines humming normally. But in his hand, he still held the seal. The terminal screen glowed faintly, as if acknowledging his presence. He sat down, breathing heavily. The seal hummed softly in his hand, a constant reminder that his life had changed forever. Curiosity, courage, and human ingenuity had brought him this far, but the real challenges were only beginning. Liam looked around the lab, a small smile tugging at his lips. He had accidentally unlocked a power older than humanity itself, yet he felt ready. Mistakes, forgetfulness, and curiosity had led him here. And for once, being human, imperfect, clever, and bold felt like the greatest advantage in the universe. He placed the seal carefully on the desk, considering his next move. He knew that the seal's tests were far from over, and that understanding its full power would require courage, intelligence, and humanity at its best. But for now, he allowed himself a small moment of satisfaction. He had survived the first awakening, and he had a feeling that the universe was watching, curious to see what a human could do next. Liam woke to the soft hum of his lab. Sunlight streamed through the window, but something felt different. The seal rested on the desk in front of him, glowing faintly, as if breathing. The air around it shimmered with quiet energy. He reached out and touched it, and instantly, the world shifted again. This time, he didn't feel surprised. He had expected it. The seal was alive in some way, connected to him now, and it seemed to have a purpose. The soft voice filled his mind. Your trials continue, human. Each trial will challenge your mind, your heart, and your courage. You must prove that humanity can rise beyond its limits. Liam nodded, his fingers tightening around the glowing artifact. He had survived the first trial, the awakening, but the seal made it clear that was only the beginning. He felt a thrill. For all its danger, this was the kind of challenge he loved. Suddenly, the lab around him dissolved. He found himself standing in an alien landscape. The ground was metallic, reflecting a sky of swirling violet and gold. Towering structures stretched into the clouds, and in the distance, enormous machines moved with a precision that seemed impossible. Liam could see beings walking along platforms, humanoid, yet unlike anything he had ever seen. Their faces were smooth, with eyes that glowed faintly, and their gestures were graceful. The seal pulsed in his hand. This is the first trial of power. Demonstrate your understanding. Use your mind, not just your hands. Liam took a careful step forward. He noticed a massive structure ahead, a puzzle of light and energy. Panels shifted, glowing lines connecting them in patterns that seemed alive. It was obvious that some intelligence had designed this trial. Liam studied it. He realized brute force wouldn't work. He had to understand the patterns, the flow of energy, the rhythm that guided the structure. He focused. Slowly, the glowing lines rearranged themselves as he anticipated their movements. Shapes aligned, panels clicked, and a passageway opened. Liam stepped through, feeling a surge of pride. The seal pulsed in approval, sending warmth through his hands. But the next trial was harder. The sky darkened, and shadows appeared along the alien platforms. They were not solid, more like illusions, but they moved with intent. Liam felt fear ripple through him. These were clearly tests of perception and focus. He reminded himself, fear was natural, but it could not control him. He observed the shadows carefully. They mimicked threats he had never seen, yet their motions followed subtle patterns. Using both intuition and logic, he moved through them, stepping only when he was certain it was safe. Some shadows lunged, but he anticipated their movements and dodged easily. After what felt like hours, the shadows dissipated. The path ahead opened to a courtyard where several figures were trapped in strange energy fields. Liam recognized them as the alien beings from earlier visions. Though they seemed different now, more solid, more real, the seal's voice echoed in his mind. Choose, human. Save them and risk your own progress, or ignore them and proceed. Liam hesitated. He thought of the first trial, where understanding and compassion had mattered. He knew the seal was testing more than just intellect. It was testing humanity itself. He stepped forward and manipulated the energy fields, using logic and observation. The fields were delicate, but he found the right points to release the beings. They stepped free, bowing slightly in acknowledgement, and then the courtyard transformed. The walls glowed, forming a pattern that guided him forward. The trials became more demanding. He faced challenges that tested his memory, his reflexes, and even his moral judgment. One corridor required him to recall alien symbols he had never seen before and arrange them according to a hidden logic. Liam studied carefully, noticing connections in the patterns that only a curious mind could see. He arranged the symbols correctly, and the path opened out. Another trial required him to navigate a maze of shifting platforms. Each wrong step would collapse the platform into nothingness. Liam relied on intuition, observation, and timing. The seal pulsed warmly as he progressed, guiding him subtly, but never giving answers directly. It wanted him to learn, not simply succeed. During a moment of rest, Liam reflected on the experience. Every challenge pushed him to think differently, to rely on ingenuity and adaptability qualities that machines, no matter how advanced, could not fully replicate. Humans were messy, imperfect, and unpredictable, but those were also their strengths. Then came the final trial of this stage, the Chamber of Reflection. Liam entered a vast hall filled with mirrors that reflected not his appearance, but visions of possible futures. Some showed him using the seal recklessly, destroying worlds with unchecked power. Others showed him creating harmony, building civilizations, and guiding others to safety. "Choose wisely, human," the seal whispered. "Your path is defined by the choices you make, not by the power you wield." Liam walked slowly through the mirrors, studying each reflection. The temptation to choose power for personal gain was strong, but he reminded himself of the lessons from the first trials. True strength came from understanding, responsibility, and empathy. He raised the seal high and focused on the future he wanted, not for himself, but for humanity. The mirrors shimmered, and the reflections of chaos and destruction dissolved. The chamber filled with light, warm and inviting. The seal pulsed brightly in his hands, and a new vision appeared, a holographic map of the galaxy, dotted with stars and glowing points of energy. Liam realized that the seal was showing him a glimpse of humanity's potential if guided wisely. The possibilities were endless, but they required courage, intelligence, and unity. Suddenly, the vision faded, and Liam found himself back in the lab. The seal sat on the desk, glowing faintly, as if it had acknowledged his success. He exhaled, exhausted but exhilarated. The trials had pushed him to his limits. Yet he had learned something vital. Humanity, with all its imperfections, could rise to challenges that seemed impossible. He thought of the alien city, the puzzles, the illusions, and the chamber of reflection. Each trial had reinforced one truth. The seal tested not just skill, but character. Liam understood that his curiosity, compassion, and ingenuity were just as important as any knowledge or strength the seal could offer. As he placed the seal carefully back on the desk, Liam noticed a subtle change in himself. He could feel patterns in the world, small connections that had previously gone unnoticed. Machines, data streams, even the behavior of his colleagues now seemed more predictable. Not because he had gained power over them, but because he had learned to observe, understand, and adapt. The terminal screen lit up again, displaying a new message. "The first trials are complete. You have demonstrated insight, courage, and compassion. The path ahead will be more demanding. Prepare yourself." Liam smiled faintly. He was beginning to understand the seal, but he knew this was only the beginning. There were greater challenges waiting, ones that would test humanity itself. And he felt a quiet thrill at the thought. For the first time, he truly understood what it meant to be human in the vast, mysterious universe. Imperfect, curious, bold, and capable of extraordinary feats. He looked around the lab, still messy from the first awakening, and chuckled. "Well," he said aloud, "I guess I'd better get ready for whatever comes next." The seal pulsed gently, almost as if it agreed. And deep inside, Liam felt a bond forming, a connection not just to the artifact, but to the potential of humanity itself. He had awakened something ancient and powerful, and now it was up to him to guide it wisely. The trials of power were only beginning, but Liam was ready. Curiosity, intelligence, and courage would be his tools. And above all, he knew that being human, imperfect, resilient, and bold was the greatest advantage he could ever have. Liam sat in his lab, the seal glowing faintly on the desk. He had survived the first trials, demonstrating his intellect, courage, and humanity. Yet the hum of energy from the artifact was different today. It was heavier, more insistent, as if urging him towards something he did not yet understand. He reached out, touching the seal. The world shifted immediately, the lab dissolving around him. He found himself standing on a plateau above a vast alien city. The architecture shimmered under an impossible sun, with towers twisting in impossible angles and pathways floating like ribbons in the sky. Liam's heart raced. He had been here before, but now the feeling of anticipation was stronger. The seal pulsed in his hand. The next trials test not only skill, but the essence of your being, the voice spoke in his mind. Your actions will echo beyond your world. Failure carries consequences. Liam swallowed. The words were a warning, but he did not retreat. He had faced fear and illusion before, and he knew that human courage came from facing challenges, not avoiding them. A pathway opened in front of him, lined with glowing symbols. Each step seemed to resonate with the seal's energy. Liam walked carefully, aware that each movement was part of the test. He soon arrived at a chamber filled with holographic displays. They showed images of civilizations, some human, some alien, rising and falling. Some were destroyed by conflict, others by greed, and a few had thrived, building wonders across the galaxy. The seal pulsed again. Understand. Power without wisdom is destruction. Knowledge without balance is ruin. Choose your actions carefully, human. Suddenly, the chamber shifted. Liam was confronted with a vision of the Earth, human cities sprawling across continents. Machines hummed, and satellites orbited in silent precision. But something was wrong. A wave of energy, unfamiliar and hostile, threatened to consume the planet. Liam realized the seal was showing him the potential consequences of reckless power. He touched the glowing symbols around him, seeking patterns, searching for a solution. He recognized the familiar rhythm of energy flows, connecting dots and predicting outcomes. Slowly, he manipulated the patterns, rerouting the energy, redirecting its destructive potential. The wave subsided, and the Earth shimmered with renewed safety. "Good," the seal whispered. "You understand that responsibility guides power, but the true test is within. Your choices affect not only this world, but all who follow." The next chamber appeared, darker than the previous ones. Shadows moved along the walls, whispering doubts and fears. Liam felt them probing his mind, tempting him with shortcuts, urging him to use the seal recklessly to gain advantage. The temptation was strong. He felt the surge of power that had come with the first trials. And a thought crossed his mind. Just a small misuse, and everything would be simpler. But he remembered the lessons of the first trials, the chamber of reflection, the beings he had freed, the puzzles that required patience and care. He drew a deep breath, steadying himself. Fear and temptation would not guide him. Intelligence, courage, and humanity would. He focused, letting logic and insight guide him. The shadows dissolved. The seal's glow intensified, filling the chamber with warm light. He felt a presence, ancient and patient, acknowledging his success. A final vision appeared. It was a map of the galaxy, dotted with points of energy and potential threats. Liam saw countless civilizations, each with its own path. Some had fallen to arrogance, others to ignorance. He understood now the magnitude of the seal's purpose. It was a test, not of strength, but of judgment, wisdom, and restraint. The world shifted once more, returning him to the lab. The seal rested quietly on the desk, its energy pulsing like a heartbeat. Liam sat back, exhausted but enlightened. He understood the curse that accompanied the seal. It was not a punishment, but a challenge. Those who failed it could bring ruin, but those who succeeded could guide civilizations, unlock knowledge, and ensure safety and progress. He smiled faintly, realizing the truth. Humanity, with all its flaws and unpredictability, had the potential to rise above any challenge. Mistakes, courage, and curiosity were not weaknesses. They were the keys to greatness, and Liam had begun to unlock that potential. The lab was quiet, but the air thrummed with energy. Liam gazed at the seal resting on the desk, its glow steady and welcoming. He had faced trials, visions, and illusions. He had learned the weight of power and responsibility, the importance of choice, and the extraordinary potential of humanity. Now, he faced the final step, not a trial of the seal, but of himself. He had to decide how to use it, how to guide its power without succumbing to temptation. The voice spoke calm and clear. You have proven worthy, human. But the seal is not a tool to be wielded blindly. Its legacy is yours to shape. Liam nodded. He understood. The seal was a key, but not a weapon. Its purpose was guidance, insight, and challenge. Misuse could bring disaster, but careful stewardship could elevate humanity. He carefully placed the seal in a containment chamber he designed. Using a combination of advanced technology and principles he had learned from the seal itself. The chamber glowed faintly, safe yet connected, allowing access only to those worthy and responsible. The seal pulsed softly, approving his decision. Liam felt a sense of accomplishment, but also a quiet humility. He had been chosen not because he was perfect, but because he represented humanity's best traits: curiosity, ingenuity, and courage. Over the following days, Liam shared his experiences with trusted colleagues. He demonstrated the seal's potential, but emphasized caution. Together, they developed protocols to study it responsibly, using its energy to advance science, technology, and exploration without endangering life. The seal became a symbol, a reminder that humans, though flawed, could achieve greatness through intelligence, empathy, and determination. It was not a tool for domination, but a test and a guide. Humanity had earned its first chance to wield something beyond its natural limits. Liam often reflected on the moment. He had forgotten his password, accidentally awakening the seal. What had seemed like a minor mistake had led to the discovery of an artifact, older than human civilization. The universe had tested him, and he had responded with human ingenuity and